Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I have a beautiful job that I love. I assist you in connecting with your angels and opening up to the magic in your soul. I do this through one-on-one angel sessions, soul mentoring, and a variety of classes designed to inspire your spirit. All of my one-on-one sessions take place over the phone, and all of my classes take place over Zoom. So there are lots of wonderful ways that we can connect. And I also have a mailing list that you can sign up for on my website, illuminatingsouls.com. But for now, the angels and I are coming together to co-create a beautiful sanctuary for the next hour or so where you can receive love, perhaps be somewhat amused, feel the sweetness of the angelic energy, and where I can keep you company as you either go about your day or as you get ready to drift off to sleep. So, as you can tell by the title, this is designed to be a sleep podcast. And you may wonder what one of those is. What is a sleep podcast? Well, let me tell you. I started listening to a sleep podcast called Sleep With Me with Drew Ackerman probably somewhere around 2015. And I fell in love with the genre. It has become a part of my sleep routine to listen to a sleep podcast as I drift off to sleep. So a sleep podcast is typically a narrative of some kind that is spoken word. It can also be musical, although there will be no music here, aside from that little intro piece, which is played very softly. You might even not hear it. So it's supposed to be a little rambly, sweet, nothing jarring, nothing heavy, nothing shocking, sort of monotone, so that it's easy for your consciousness to focus upon it rather than racing thoughts as you end the day, but also not so compelling that it keeps you awake. So I've been listening to them for years, and I really had wanted to do a sleep podcast, and then of course there needed to be angels because, angels are my thing. They can be your thing too. I don't mean this in a possessive way that I have all the angels. I just more mean they're my conduit for self-care as our sleep podcasts. So here we are. And however you found your way here, welcome. I am grateful to have some time with you. So usually the first 15 or 20 minutes, I ramble a bit like I am now, and I bring in the angels so that you know that they are here. And then we move into story time, which is about 40 minutes long, and it can be stories from my personal life. We might flip through the pages of an old TV guide or an old community cookbook, something that's in the public domain. And I love the story times as a listener because I do listen to this sleep podcast. It's not unusual for me to skip over the angel part. I love that part, but I do that all the time. and move on into story time because I just really enjoy listening to them. So you're welcome to listen to all of the podcast, or just the angel part, or just the story part. The start time for story time will always be in the show notes. So you feel free to use this podcast however you want. As I record this, it is early Saturday morning. The sun is just starting to come up, so, like everything is sort of in that sweet blue-gray color as the sun makes its way into the sky, and everything is very quiet. I've been getting up earlier and earlier, so finally somewhere around 5 a.m. my husband and I got out of bed, and I sat up and had a cup of coffee, and we talked a little bit, and I knew I wanted to record the podcast this morning, but truth be told, I just really wanted to sit and do nothing. That has been my motivation level for the last, few months. I am so profoundly contented doing nothing at all. I have no energy for doing. Not that this is hard work. I don't mean to make it sound like, oh my God, I've got to record a podcast. I love recording these for you. It's just that I am really enjoying quiet right now. I've shared with you before, there is a tarot deck that I love called Osho Zen Tarot. And there is a specific card in that deck that I love. It is called No-Thingness. So it's the word no hyphen thingness. And it's an all black card. And on the surface, it could seem rather ominous, but it's not at all. What it says, what it teaches is it represents that space in between breaths, that moment before a new universe is created. That there's this moment of no-thingness, of stillness, of quiet, right before the wave crashes on the shore. And so I'm in the no-thingness right now. Listen, there's a lot happening on the earth plane, but aside from that, I think there's a lot happening energetically as we are calibrated and attuned to what's coming next, whatever the mystery of life will bring our way. There's some very powerful planetary aspects happening, which I will not go into because I am not a good astrologer. But I can just feel it. I know it's there. So if you find yourself in the no-thingness, please don't allow yourself to come into a place of judgment because of it. Not to sound too trite, but everything has a season, including us. We are cosmic surfers, and we move with the tides of energy. That there are times when everything is in motion, and then there's times when things grow quiet. So I'm in one of those quiet places, and I have entered a time in my life where I really love the hibernation energy. It's so interesting. When I was younger, probably in my 20s to my 40s, I loved going out into the world. I wanted to go to concerts and clubs, and I wanted to meet my friends for dinner. And, if I was home on a Saturday night, it meant something was not working in my life. I needed to go out. I needed to be in the world. I loved to travel. I loved to participate in life outside of my home. And now, I'm so happy to be home. The idea of going out after dark has zero appeal to me. I will go out during the day. That's when I do my grocery shopping. But if I got tickets to the Super Bowl or something, I would be like, yeah, no, thank you. No, thanks. That's not my speed, but thanks for offering. I have no interest in being around thousands of people. I love being home on my comfy love seat power recliner with my husband. Right now my husband is working on a stamp album. He's so cute. He does all of these like collector things like stamps, and he enjoys it. And so he's sitting in his part of the power recliner working on stamps, and I'm in my part of the power recliner working on a puzzle on my iPad or watching TikToks or crocheting. And we're only 62 years old, but we are so happy just in our little bubble of love. I remember many years ago, before I met my husband, I wrote something, and it was a prayer that one day I would live in a house filled with love. I grew up in a house filled with love with my parents, but at the time that I wrote that, I want to live in a house filled with love, I had been single and living on my own. And it was this dream that I would live in a home filled with love with my husband, who I hadn't met yet. And it would be a house filled with love and joy and peace. And so I think when a dream is so precious and feels elusive, but it feels like the greatest dream of your heart, when it comes true, at least for me, it is so profoundly precious, and I treasure it. Every once in a while, my husband will say, I wish I'd gotten you a bigger house, or, I wish our house was bigger, because we live in a small house. And I say to him, we have a house. Like, we have a house filled with love. We are so lucky. We have so much more than most people. And I truly feel that way. So interesting that I am not striving for more than what we have. It would be lovely if it comes, but I feel a deep sense of peace with what is. So I share this peace with you, that hopefully for the next hour, you can feel that you are in this virtual space, this virtual sanctuary. You're invited into my virtual home, if you will, filled with love. And it's filled with love for you too. So this is the divine home, the angelic home, filled with a lot of love for you. So let's call the angels in. They're already here, but I love sharing them with you. So let's take some nice deep breaths in and just release. Release whatever needs to be released. Release the known and unknown, the named and unnamed. Releasing whatever your it of the moment is. Releasing it into the arms of the angels, so that you can take a deep breath and be present with the blessing that you are. So beautiful angels on high, I invite you to join us here, and I'm so grateful for this beautiful sanctuary, this beautiful vibrational home that you are creating for each of our beloveds that are listening to this message. That each of their vibrational homes brings to them exactly the frequency, the vibration, and the light that serves them best. And angels, I ask that you help clear from us any fear or doubt or worry that we need not carry. Just, if you will transmute them, please, into prayers that can be lifted up into the heart of God and turned into light. And angels, I ask that you help us find peace of heart, that you help inspire our spirits, as we find our way into the next wave of whatever that is, that we find peace in the stillness and love in this moment, and that we energize and experience brighter tomorrows, that our creative spirits bubble up to the surface and delight us as we move through our lives, that we live lives filled with beautiful purpose and joy and community and goodness. And dear ones, just take a nice deep breath in, allowing the beauty of this moment. And as I speak these words, I hear the angels saying, speak of kindness. Remind them of the power of kindness. Kindness towards yourself. Let's start there, because we can often judge ourselves so harshly. Kindness to yourself. Allowing the vibration of kindness to fill your energy field. Not the kind of kindness where you pour yourself out and you're utterly depleted. But think of the generosity of trees, right? They stand sentry and they share their life force. They share shade and fruit. They help different creatures find home. They share their life force. They draw from the earth and they draw from the sky, and they repurpose this in ways that bless so many life forms. And we are like the trees. We share. It is our nature to share our bounty, our goodness, our light, a smile, a thank you to the person who is holding the door open for you. So take a breath in and allow it to be so. Allow yourself to receive the blessing of this moment as the angels fill the space you are in with a beautiful, soft light. This is a vibrational light, not the kind of light that would wake you up, but the kind of vibrational light that soothes you, that can bring calming to your nervous system and to your mind, to help you drift off to a good rest. So just breathe and receive and allow the love to flow to you. So if you are preparing for sleep, we wish you the sweetest of dreams. You drift off whenever sleep comes to you. And if this is the waking time of your day or night, especially if you're operating heavy machinery, please stay awake and we'll keep you company. So we're going to move on into story time. So for story time, I thought we could wax poetic a bit about fall. We'll include a little bit of pumpkin love and Halloween love and just all the other beautiful things that come with fall. So this is inspired because I have been holding on to Trader Joe's Fall 2024 frequent flyer with all their pumpkin stuff in it. So we definitely will be flipping through that. And then I was just also going through my Rolodex of memories of fall experiences from my childhood, and I thought I would share some of those with you as well. So let's start there, because the memory that returned to me is when we were kids, our parents would take us to a pumpkin patch where each of us could pick our very own pumpkin. Our pumpkin patch was at a garden center called Hackers. I think that was the name. I may be getting it wrong. I know I have a Skokie girlfriend who listens, so you can let me know if that's right. Was it Hackers? I think it's on Tui and Central, or Nile Center, something like that. It's not there anymore. There's a McDonald's there. Well, when we grew up, it was Hackers, I believe. And they would put out all the pumpkins. And I remember as a kid, the goal was to get the biggest pumpkin I could carry, which wasn't that big because I'm small. Well, okay. I mean, I was a little kid, but I wasn't a small kid. I was a chubby little girl, but still, pumpkin size being relevant to a child's, body and ability to lift. And then the other goal was to get a perfectly round orange pumpkin that looked like all the other pumpkins we would see in the cartoons. But if you've ever really been around real live pumpkins, they are imperfect, just like we are. They are lopsided. One side's a little flat because that's where the pumpkin was resting. So it was this whole thing of trying to decide, do I want a bigger pumpkin or do I want a perfect pumpkin? Boy, talk about a metaphor for life, huh? So each of us would pick our pumpkins. That was a very sacred thing. And each of us, there were 3 of us, got to pick our pumpkins. They were not chosen for us. So, as a kid, when you have dominion to choose, this is important. There's a lot of factors to weigh. So I don't really know how long we were there. Maybe it was 20 minutes. But in my childhood memory, we were there a long time because it took a long time to pick just the right pumpkin. So I would look for the largest, most perfect pumpkin I could find that I could carry. I don't know that it was a rule, but it feels like it was a rule that somehow we had to be able to lift our own pumpkin, which would be a good rule. If I were a parent, I would make that part of the agreement. So we get our pumpkins home, and at some point the pumpkins get carved. Now, I'm quite certain that our parents did not allow us to use knives sharp enough to cut a pumpkin open. But in my mind, I cut the pumpkin open. I'm sure I didn't. But we did take pen or pencil to draw in the eyes and the jaggedy, scary mouth and the nose. So we got to at least draw on our pumpkins. I remember that. And then the opening at the top of the pumpkin would be cut, and all of the innards would be scooped out. Very slimy job. I somehow remember my mother participating in this, and we used a big spoon. Now, there is a little bit of lore around the giant spoon that I seem to recall we used. My sister and I, and perhaps my brother, I haven't asked him, we call it the Spanish rice spoon. So, my mother made simple food, but we loved it. And one of the things she would make, she called Spanish rice. Apologies to anyone who really knows Spanish cuisine, because it has nothing in common with anything from Spain. But we called it Spanish rice. It involved ground beef that was browned, so you cooked that ahead of time, in all likelihood with some onions, because we were Jewish and everything had onions in it. And then you would put in some rice. I'm sure my mother did the instant rice or something like that. Some stewed tomatoes, perhaps some water, I don't really know. And then you would bake it in like a Pyrex bowl. That was our Spanish rice, which is still a comfort food for me. I have made it in my adult life. So, the key about Spanish rice is you have to overcook it a little bit so that the top is a little burned. My dad loved things that were a little burned, like he was a well-done steak kind of guy. And in the edges where it was kind of burned were the best parts. They were crispy, and you would strategically, scrape them off the side. And then it was even better when it was heated up the next day. And always our Spanish rice was served with this big Spanish rice spoon. It's just in like a metal spoon with a plastic handle. It's not special, but it is part of our childhood memory. And so just a sweet story about the Spanish rice spoon is, as we were disassembling our parents' house after my mom died in 2019, my sister got custody of the spoon, which was fine. We all kind of took different things that were meaningful to us. And on my 60th birthday, my sister sent me this giant box. And in it were a lot of my mom's old pans, which are just emotional. It's not that they're good pans. And some of my mom's old dish towels, which are a little raggedy, which I'm sure my mother would be horrified with. And the Spanish rice spoon. So my sister and I were on the phone. It's like, it's the Spanish rice spoon. So I am now in possession of the Spanish rice spoon. Thank you very much. And I recall that we used the Spanish rice spoon to scoop out the innards of the pumpkin. And my mother was such a good mom. She actually boiled the innards to get the guts off of the seeds and then toasted up the pumpkin seeds. And I don't know if you've ever had homemade toasted pumpkin seeds, but they're 1,000 times better than anything you'll get in a package from a store. My mother's pumpkin seeds were so good. Okay, so Spanish rice spoon scoops out the guts. Mom makes pumpkin seeds. At some point, someone, I'm sure an adult, cuts our pumpkins open. So now we have these pumpkins that we have carved. In my memory, I wanted to say that they were somehow on this little card table in my parents' bedroom because they had a window that faced out into the front where the street was. But as I was thinking about that, I thought that couldn't be right because those pumpkins would have been stinky. I can't imagine my parents would have lived with smelly pumpkins in their bedroom, so my memories may have gotten all mushed up. So as I think about it logically, I'm quite certain our pumpkins lived on the front porch, which makes much more sense. That they would be relegated to be outside pumpkins. So perhaps we had some sort of decorative, non-organic pumpkin, meaning plastic, that was in my parents' bedroom. Perhaps that's what I'm mixing up my memories with. So that's the story of our pumpkins. And, at some point after Halloween, they would look much worse for wear and they would wind up in the garbage. We didn't have pigs to feed them to or something. I don't, okay, I'll tell you why I just said that, because I was just watching a video of people who have animal sanctuaries, and it is a feast for the animals on the animal sanctuary after Halloween, because there are mass loads of pumpkins that no longer have a purpose. But they do, because they feed animals, which is good. Although I don't know that they would want my junky, pumpkin that has been carved for 3 weeks. I don't think anything should eat that. So anyways, that's our pumpkin saga. And then, of course, Halloween. I did a whole episode about Halloween that I just put up in the replay, so you can go back and listen to that. Candy, awesome. Halloween, phenomenal. And I was thinking there's a hierarchy of holidays as kids, Jewish kids to be specific. The number one holiday is Hanukkah, because there's presents for 8 days. Like, that's that's the trifecta, right? That's the best. 8 days of presents trumps just about anything. So Hanukkah's number 1. Number 2, Halloween. You ring people's doorbells and they give you candy. How does it get better than that? And I grew up in the era where no one was policing our candy intake. You know, these days, you hear about parents saying you can have 2 pieces of candy. We would have laughed my mother out of the room. We ate so much sugar at Halloween. We were not policed. I mean, I'm sure at some point my mother was like, okay, that's enough. Put the candy away. And we probably had some sort of mad laugh like, haha. That's what you say. So candy, Halloween's number 2. And then I would say number 3 would be a birthday. Your birthday, to be specific, because typically in our home, the birthday boy or girl would get presents. So this is sort of like the blend of Hanukkah and Halloween, because you get presents. And then if it's your party, you put together the goodie bag. Everybody would get a goodie bag, and goodie bags involved candy. So I grew up in the era where birthday parties were not like the blowout birthday parties of today. There was no Chuck E. Cheese involved. In our home, typically our birthday parties were in the basement, and my mom would set up a card table with a tablecloth. We would often have, piggies in a blanket, so the little hot dogs wrapped up in crescent roll dough, or however my mother made those. Potato chips, probably. I don't know what else. I just remember the piggies in the blanket thing, and cake. My mother would make us a cake, and we would get to choose what kind of cake we wanted. So that would be the trifecta. So you have Hanukkah, 8 days of presents, and Hanukkah cookies and Hanukkah gelt, so there is sugar involved. Halloween, which you get to wear a costume and everybody just gives you candy. Awesome. And then whenever your birthday was, presents and candy and little piggies in a blanket. And it's your day. Those were the 3 top holidays from a kid's perspective. Or this kid's perspective, I will say, from my perspective. Those were the 3 highlights of the year. What more could you ask for? I will say, as far as birthday party themes goes, my sister's birthday is at the beginning of October. And I seem to recall, more often than not, she always seemed to have a Halloween-themed birthday. It just makes sense, right? I don't remember my themes. I think I just got to wear a pretty dress and a hat and party socks and patent leather shoes, which, as a kid, what more do you want? That was it. That was high fashion in that moment. So just really props to my mom, who always made all of these holidays special. I have holiday memories because my mom made a big deal about them. And I don't mean a huge deal. I just mean they took up space in our lives in a lovely, lovely way. So, shout out to my mom. Also, when I think of fall memories, I think of leaves, raking leaves, which I never really did, but there was nothing as enticing as a pile of leaves someone else's father, because it was usually the dads that raked the leaves, had put into the curb, against the curb, so that the city could come and pick them up. Well, you're a kid. Huge pile of leaves. How could you not run into it and jump and play tag and all of those things, which of course disperses the leaves that somebody's parent has just been raking up forever. And the parents would come and say, don't play in those are dirty. which has never dissuaded any child from doing anything fun, ever. So, fall also comes with that wonderful scent of dried leaves in a pile somewhere. Sort of mildewy, sort of smoky, sort of, the best scent ever. And I also grew up in the era that you could burn leaves. Not me personally. Kids couldn't do that, but again, somebody's parent would tend the fire. And it was the best scent. Terrible for the environment. So it's understandable that we don't do that anymore, but good memories for the olfactory center of my brain. So now let's time travel back to the present day, 2024. So I have secured our Halloween candy. I bought the giant bags from Costco that I'm sure everybody else has purchased. I get a little bit grumpy on Halloween now because I go to bed by 7:30 or 8 o'clock. And there are kids who ring our doorbell later than that. Of course they do. It's what they're supposed to do, but I am coming close to the stage of life where I want to turn off the porch light. But we're not going to do that because I've never wanted to be that person. But we have secured good candy. And there is a neighbor down at the end of our street that does this outrageously amazing decoration extravaganza for his home. Like, he's got that giant skeleton on top of his house, and he has skeleton horses, and it's amazing what he's done. So we now get a lot of trick-or-treaters because, everybody wants to come and see his house. So we are prepared. And as I promised you, I have the Trader Joe's Fearless flyer for fall of 2024, which has a lot of fall pumpkin related things. Now, something for you to know is pumpkin isn't really my thing. I don't dislike it, but it's not as if I have to go into Trader Joe's and buy every pumpkin thing they offer. I'm more of a peppermint mocha person. But I'll share with you some of the things that are available this time of year. We've got the butternut mac and cheese that is frozen. And it's $3.79, which is a really good price for a meal, a frozen meal, yes. And people are obsessed with this. Like, they go and they fill their carts and freezers full of this, so it lasts them well beyond October. Now, I bought it once. I love butternut squash. I enjoy mac and cheese. Did not enjoy this. It's not that it was bad, it's just not my flavor profile. So, not really. They have pumpkin spice cold brew coffee concentrate. Again, I don't need pumpkin spice in my coffee. I'm much more interested in peppermint mocha in my coffee. They have maple spiced nut mix, which I did taste when they were sampling it. Lovely. Did not need to get it because no one in my house eats nuts except for me. And if you have ever been a person who diets perpetually, you will know the hazard of having an abundance of nuts available for snacking. It's not good for me. Anyways, it might be fine for you. However, not in this frequent flyer, but have you had I don't know what the official name is, but it's a nut mix that involves dehydrated olives, and the nuts are seasoned. It's delicious. And so I usually keep a bag, unopened bag, in my pantry for, quote, company. I don't know who's coming over to my house that I need to feed nuts to, but in case they show up, I have a bag of this. And at some point, because we have nobody to our house ever, we're come up upon the expiration date of these nuts, which I'm not going to throw out. So I open them and eat them, which is the phase of the olive nut mix that I am in right now. I have a bag open in my cupboard. And I'm trying to ration them appropriately so I don't gain 45 pounds of olive nut mix excess weight. If you know, you know. Yes. But they're really good if you ever want to try them. They have a chicken bacon ranch dip. Doesn't speak to me. Caramelized onion goat log. I'm sure they're talking about goat cheese. Again, I'm the only one in my house that would eat this. If you invited me over and this was on a charcuterie plate, I would have some, but I don't need them. Fall leaf tortilla chips. I mean, lovely in theory, but I don't need them. It's so interesting. I think that this whole Trader Joe's frequent flyer, I'm just going to be a curmudgeon. I'm going to go, yeah, no. I don't know how much fun that's going to be for you. So they have petite pumpkin spice cookies. Say it with me. Yeah, no. Okay, so now we're going to produce. They have sugar bee apples, which I don't know that I've tried, but let's read about them. In the early 1990s, an orchardist discovered a new kind of apple growing in his Minnesota Honeycrisp orchard. With a little detective work, he determined that local bees had taken the pollen from an unknown nearby tree and cross-pollinated it with Honeycrisp blossoms, and the sugar bee was born. So the sugar bee has notes of honey, and they're suggesting that you might feast on this alongside the maple spiced nut mix. So here's the thing about me and apples. I am profoundly loyal to Envy apples. I just bought some from Whole Foods. And I'm kind of a fuss budget when it comes to produce. Like, it has to be really good. And so when I was at Whole Foods, their Envy apples were $3.99 a pound. Now that's expensive. I know it's expensive. So I just bought 2. They were expensive. I'm only going to get 2 of them. And I was hungry because it was past my lunch. And so I went into the car and I started munching on one of these Envy apples, which I think is one of the best apples that I have had all year. And I thought, this is the most delicious thing ever. And I immediately marched back into Whole Foods and bought a bunch more of them. I don't care how much they cost. More Envy apples, please. So I don't know that I would waste my apple eating time on a new variety that is untested. So if you like the sugar bee apples and have had an Envy apple, I would love to know a taste comparison. They have honeycomb candy, which I'm sure is delightful. Shiitake mushrooms. Not much of a mushroom person. They're great on pizza. If you were serving me a dish that has mushrooms in it, I would gladly eat it. But as me, Laurel, I am not going out of my way to include mushrooms in my life. That's just me, though. Okay, now we're getting into pumpkin baked goods. Now here you have my attention, but all of them have sugar, so at this time in my life I cannot eat them. But they have a Trader Joe's pumpkin loaf and pumpkin butter. And here's where I'm going to insert a very heartfelt, sweet memory with you. My mom loved Trader Joe's pumpkin muffin loaf mix. It came in a box. It still comes in a box. And she loved the pumpkin butter. She would wait all year for this. And then she would buy, for my mom it was a lot, like 3 boxes. My mom is not a food hoarder like I am. Well, okay, I'm not really a hoarder. I just mean, if I love something, I'm buying more than 3 boxes. And then my mom would make the muffins and she would, serve them to us. And so my mom's birthday is in early December. And so she passed away in 2019. So I happened to be in Trader Joe's on her first birthday after she passed away. You know, those first holidays are hard. So I'm going through Trader Joe's, and you know, they always sample something. This was before the pandemic, especially. They were really sampling things then. And they were sampling the pumpkin muffin with the pumpkin butter on my mom's birthday. And I was so happy. I was like, Mom. And I don't know. I don't think I cried, but I definitely took a sample and toasted my mom up in heaven. So, thumbs up to Trader Joe's baked goods and their pumpkin butter. They do have gluten-free pumpkin streusel muffins, which I'm sure are delicious. And they have pumpkin O's, which I can say are great. So if you like Cheerios, and the idea of Cheerios having pumpkin O's, that's what these are. I don't really buy them anymore, but I used to buy them, and my husband and I would snack on them while we watched television. So they're a very good snacking cereal if you are predisposed to using cereal as a snack. Which, why wouldn't you be, right? Cereal makes the best snack ever. They have apple shortbread cookies, which really sound good, but if I were going to be eating a shortbread cookie, I would either want it to be plain or involve chocolate, but that's just me. They do have white Stilton cheese with apple and pear, which sounds great, and I would only want a smidge because it's a very pungent cheese. So again, if you have a charcuterie board, I would have a little, but I am not buying a whole hunk of it because it's not going to get eaten. And they also recommend that you serve that with pumpkin cranberry crisps. Again, I can only imagine that is delicious. They have a new bagged salad mix, a sweet chili mango salad kit. So I've already shared with you that I do not do well with foods that have heat, like spicy heat. So I would not be getting this. If it was like a sweet ginger mango salad kit, I'd be interested because I love mangoes and I love a sweet salad. But no can do on that one for me. But perhaps you will like it. They have savory squash pastry bites. They have some really great appetizers. But again, Wes would never eat these, and no one comes to our house, so I will not be getting them. But if they are sampling them at Trader Joe's, you better believe that I will be tasting them because they sound delicious to me. Oh, this sounds really good, but I will not be eating it. Pumpkin cheesecake croissant. That sounds delightful. And I believe these are the frozen ones that you bake at home. Which, if that is the case, that's even better. And then they have pumpkin ice cream. And pumpkin snickerdoodle cookies. Again, wouldn't necessarily go out of my way for that, but if you served it to me and I was still eating sugar, I would very much enjoy it, I'm sure. Oh, here they have a little homage to pumpkin butter. So I'm going to read this to you in honor of my mom. So Trader Joe's pumpkin butter doesn't actually contain butter, but it does have a distinctively rich butter-like consistency, partially attributable to its fruit pulp to sugar ratio, which is higher than that of jam or preserves. To make each jar, our supplier cooks pumpkin puree slowly in small batches with sugar and spices, allowing the spices plenty of time to marry with the pumpkin. The result is remarkably smooth and easy spreading with the opulent flavor and mouthfeel, a bit like a spreadable pumpkin pie filling. How should you use pumpkin butter? The possibilities are limited only by your imagination. Here's just a few ideas to get you going. Spread it on toast waffles, bagels, English muffins, or biscuits for breakfast. Make a peanut butter and pumpkin butter sandwich. Heat it and pour it over vanilla ice cream and top with maple spiced nuts for an auspiciously autumnal Sunday. I'm delighted I read that just so I could say those words. An auspiciously autumnal Sunday. Because who doesn't want one of those? You could also heat equal parts of pumpkin butter and cream to create a sauce for tortellini or gluten-free pumpkin ravioli. Well, that sounds good. And a jar of Trader Joe's pumpkin butter is only $2.99. So if you get it, raise a spoon to Phyllis, my mom. She will be happy. And here's their pumpkin bread and muffin mix, the other thing my mom loved. So a hello to my mom. They have an organic maple butter, which sounds and looks really good. But I have not bought it because I haven't had it. And the thing is I get very obsessive about things. And if I have it and I love it, I will need to have it all the time. I'm an all or nothing person. I either have none of it or I get to have all of it, which is why I no longer eat sugar. Because I would either get to have no sugar or all of the sugar. My brain is just weird that way. So I have not bought the organic maple butter because I have a hunch I would love it. And I'm better off not knowing that. So it will soon be leaving the shelves and I will no longer be in this predicament of what to do. They have Honeycrisp granola with Honeycrisp apple flavoring, but that doesn't sound good to me. But I did buy this delicious berry granola they just came out with for my husband, and he really enjoyed it. So I don't know what it's officially called, but if you go into Trader Joe's and you see the pink bag of granola that involves berries, we can definitely give it 2 thumbs up from our household. They also have their pumpkin Jojos, which are their house brand of an Oreo-like cookie. They have Trader Joe's pumpkin bisque and Trader Joe's autumnal harvest soup. We don't use the word autumnal enough. Try saying that. It's a delightful word on the tongue. Autumnal. Okay, do any of you watch the show Miranda? It's now on BritBox with Miranda Hart. She gets fixated on words every once in a while. So that just reminded me of a Miranda moment. And then there's butternut squash Italian lasagna. Again, I wouldn't mind having a little piece of it, but Wes wouldn't eat it. So I won't be getting that because I cannot eat a whole lasagna. For the dogs, they have Harvest Brunch turkey, apple, and pumpkin waffle recipe dog treats. I'm sure if I had a dog, they would love them for sure. And then we'll go to the last page, which has pumpkin and spice snickerdoodle cookie mix, as well as a pumpkin sheet cake. I have heard their sheet cakes are magical. They have a chantilly cream one, which is vanilla, a chocolate. They've had a lemon one. And I watch people eating them on TikTok all the time. I am a cake fiend. I love cake, and I no longer eat it. But I enjoy watching other people enjoy eating cake. I am a food voyeur. And then they have Trader Joe's vanilla pumpkin hand soap. I don't know that I want my hands smelling like pumpkin. But that brings us to the end of our Trader Joe's frequent flyer for the fall. I'm sure the next time we go through the frequent flyer, it will involve some peppermint mocha things. And we will share them together. So, my beautiful friends, thank you so much for allowing me to keep you company. It's such a blessing to have this time with you. And I wish you the sweetest of dreams. I wish you love, inspiration, magic, goodness, the perfect pumpkin that is round and orange, and you can carry it yourself. And I wish you homemade pumpkin seeds that are delicious and a wonderful haul of Halloween candy. So may this be an enchanted time for you. We'll talk again soon. Thank you so much. I love you and appreciate you.